everybody. Welcome to the second edition of FUDGE. I am Rachel, the Add2 Colorado Vice President, and we are so excited to have Becky as our presenter for this awesome topic. A little bit about Add2. We're a collective of young, curious, and ambitious advertising and marketing professionals, ages 32 and under. As a unified voice, we network with these students and young professionals in the Denver metro area. We're a creative support system for the beginners, intermediate, and experts. We host fun events like this, which lean towards an educational point. We also do Kegs with Legs. Our next one is tomorrow on this same platform with $11 bill. You can check it out on our Facebook. And then we also do public service where we work with a nonprofit and create a pro bono campaign for them. A little bit about Becky. She's the founder of Remickz Marketing and specializes in brand strategy and design. Along with creating badass branding for a multitude of clients, she is also certified in mental health first aid and speaks to entrepreneurs and business owners on maintaining a healthy mental state in a busy working world. This is our second installment of this event, and we have a donation button that's located at the top left. So if you like what you're seeing, definitely we're suggesting that you donate about $5, and that will go to supporting Remickz Marketing and Add2 Colorado as we present more events like this. I will now let Becky take it away.
Okay, thanks for the intro. Hello, everyone. Let's get some screen sharing started here for you guys. We'll be off to the races. Like we were saying, we had a bit of this come in from last week. It's okay if you missed a little refresh of everything. And yes, we'll get you all caught up just in case. So, first and foremost, here we go. Like I preface every talk by saying, I am a professional human being first and foremost. I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a doctor. So any advice that I give you, take it with a grain of salt and obviously check with a professional in that sense. We are going to start first and foremost, like we did last week, with a good inhale and exhale. When it comes to meditation, breathing, exercise, anything of that nature, it looks different for everybody involved. So this is just one that I put together, and this is related to mindfulness breathing techniques, in particular square breathing, because boom, it's literally a square. It's a visualization to give you a tool that you can actually follow as human beings. A lot of us I know are very visual people, especially in the Add2 community. So, when it comes to the different types of breathing exercises, do some research in them because there's a lot of different ones. But we're going to go through this little guy right when he comes back around, and we'll do 3 sets of it. So just get comfortable. If that's a seated position, if it's standing, and I will count us through it, and you can just kind of close your eyes, do whatever you need to. So let's go with an inhale. Hold that. Exhale. Hold that for 4. Let's go again. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. One more time. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. And hold. Great. And like I said last week, if you want to stay here and you want to keep doing a breathing exercise, please do it. Do whatever feels right for you today. So next, another refresher from last week. So many of us, we're multitaskers. We live in that kind of world right now, fortunately and unfortunately, that we're always worried about the future or the past or what's for dinner, whatever that may look like in your life. So we're going to do our first little writing exercise where you're going to write a note to yourself right now. And it can be literally anything. There are no restraints when it comes to this. This is your own personal journey. Remember, I like to say that the mental health world and mindfulness is all about the choose your own adventure strategy of it. So take a minute or two here. I'll set a little timer for us to, just write a note to yourself. If you'd like to share it in the chat, feel free as well. About another 30 seconds. Okay, do some wrap up there. One thing, when it comes to, especially at a time like now, there's a lot of things racing in our mind. There was a study done by Harvard that 47% of our brain is lost in thoughts at any given time. So it's important to think of that as we're going even into something like now. Are you multitasking right now? Probably. Do you have something playing in the background? Probably. Like, we all do it. So I would encourage you, if you are even catching yourself doing it during this talk, maybe take a second to stop. A few quick stats as well that I just wanted to refresh us all on, again, mainly to show that when it comes to mental health and wellness, there's no age constraints, there's no gender, there's no race. It doesn't matter. It's to every single one of us. Especially when it comes to anxiety. I didn't get to touch on this last week, but anxiety is one of the most contagious emotions we experience. So this isn't even just about an individual experience. It's about everybody around you too. Think of it in the workplace, for example. If you're working on a project, everything's going good, you're smooth sailing, and then suddenly one person starts freaking out. How quickly does that catch on like wildfire? So anxiety is one of those things that it really can affect those around you. So like I said, this is important from the individual aspect, not only for yourself, but for other people in your life. We want to all be in a good boat of happiness with all of this, even though we're a constant work in progress. And also a thing with some of these stats as well, especially with the technology, a huge focus for today's talk is just implementing it and having action items into our normal life. It's easy to sit here and for me to say to you, just do a breathing exercise every day, guys. It's easy for me to say that. And you can sit there and be like, Becky, what the heck? Like, I have a screaming kid in the background. What do you mean you want me to sit here and breathe? So don't worry. Today, we're going to kind of dig in a little more. And again, just go through some basic things that you can work on at any given time. Last week, I also had a few personas, and this is more to give us a direction as we're heading into the talk with these exercises. Where are you coming from in this? Where would you pinpoint yourself? It doesn't have to be any of these either. It could be a combination, but this is just to kind of give you some starting points if you are trying to identify, hey, who do I really see myself in terms of my stress and anxiety? And again, I'll preface it by saying that when I say terms like stress, anxiety, depression, that's whatever that is in your world. It doesn't mean you're suffering with a mental health disease. It doesn't mean that, that you have anything quote unquote wrong with you in a clinical sense. It is just, we're learning about stress and life and change. So anyway, when it comes to these personas, like I said, you could be a combination of all of these. You might identify just as one. Again, especially in the Add to Colorado community, we are seeing a lot of the entrepreneurs, the creatives, and as we're all under one roof right now too, you are balancing different relationships. So I kind of feel that maybe we all are a little bit of all of these. But just take a second to read over those. And like I said, just pick something in your head, even if it isn't these one in particular, pick one that you can really relate to and think of that as we're going through all of this. So this is a quick little checklist that I put together. Again, just a quick refresher of 5 minutes you could give to your mental health. In this day and age of scheduling and to-do lists, here's another one for you. But this one is way more related to your actual mindset when you're going into the work day or just a normal day. It doesn't even have to be work related. And in addition to this, you can carry it a step further. So what we're going to do is we're going to have another quick writing exercise. You've already done part of it. And this is a daily tracker that you can start to keep for yourself. So you just put in the date at the top. Again, you take that few minutes to write a note to yourself, what you're grateful for. Practicing gratitude is a huge part of what we'll talk about today. And then over on the right, those things that I just mentioned, how can you start tracking those too? So again, take a minute or two and just fill in the blanks that we haven't already. So you've covered the note to self. Go in, fill in the date, something you're grateful for. It could be a list. It could be just one little thing. And then just track down some of these things that you know offhand anyway, in terms of how much time you spent moving today. Did you get some fresh air? How much time have you been digitally? And yeah, we'll get started in another minute then. This is also a super great activity to include if you have family members. I've had a lot of inquiries in terms of how you can bring mental health and wellness to the rest of your family, which is so awesome, and just opening up the conversation, which is honestly the first part. But this is another way that you can have this activity that isn't too woo-woo. It isn't all just like a yoga. It's just a simple writing exercise that you could start your day off with or end with and have others in your life involved in it. About another 30 seconds. Okay. And again, I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, Becky, like, it's easier said than done for me to sit here and do this right now. You might even have your dog bothering you while you're filling this out or whatever it looks like. And I get that. I totally get that. And especially right now, you know, we as humans, we don't like change for the most part. I consider myself a person who does like change for the most part, but in terms of this pandemic we're facing, and it doesn't even have to be the pandemic. It could be that you lost your job out of nowhere. These blindsided moments, we are human beings built on structure. We like structure. We thrive in structure, whether we want to admit it or not, no matter how free flowing we are. So to have things like this to now give you structure again in your life, whether again, that's starting your day with it, ending it with it, it's going to start creating that habit that we really, at the end of the day, want to start practicing. So how can we get comfortable with being uncomfortable? We talked a little bit about this last week in terms of stress and our relationship with stress. I won't review that today, but you're more than welcome to go back and watch the old video of that and our relation to our emotions. But this is really what it comes down to. You know, throughout life, whether it's something as big as what we're going through now or as minor as, I don't know, stubbing your toe, which I happened to do right before this talk. How can you get comfortable with these things that are unexpected in your life? And it sounds like such a simple question. But again, let's give some structure to it. Let's give these stresses a reason to exist in our life. So schedule. This is huge. And not in the sense of a to-do list of, oh, I have 50 things to do today, include making lunch for the kids, doing my workload, answering my emails, calling up my mom, whatever. It's not that type of schedule as more as it is coming from a place of intention. That's how we want to start approaching each day. So the first, for example, gratitude. How can you start feeling grateful and how can that help you refocus on the positive in your life? And if you, again, this is all about practice. If you start doing these things, whether it's that writing exercise or having a schedule like this and doing it every day, just like they say, what is it, 30 days to form a new habit? Keep at it. Compassion. That's another huge one. Acceptance, whether that's within yourself or others in your life. Focusing on higher meaning basically don't let the BS get you down. Like, try and not sweat the little things. These all sound like Hallmark cards, I realize, but guess what? They're true. Forgiveness, that's another huge one. Again, within yourself, within others, and learning to let it go. Celebration. This doesn't have to be all work all the time. I'm a big believer in that you have equal parts work and play. And then reflecting, giving yourself kind of a reset. And, you don't even have to follow this in the sense of the standard Monday through Sunday. This can be just like scattered throughout, customized to your own, especially, if you don't work a traditional 9 to 5, have at it. Just play with something like this. So again, now what? Now what do we do? Here are some action items that you could do today. These are based off of those core values that I listed a few slides back of, again, just the simple things like drinking water, getting outside, but more importantly, just practicing the awareness. That's why it's number one at the top. Just realizing what you need and then taking that into acknowledgement in every little thing you do. So these are just a list of some suggestions that are accessible, that are affordable, and that you can do today. And I'm sure many of you, speaking of multitasking, I'm sure many of you have scripts like this kind of running through your head as I'm even talking. What can I do? Surrounded by news, television, noise, dog videos, social media, emails, to-do lists, as seen on TV products, YouTube, recommendations, more dog videos, because we need more of those. Screaming children, friends, family, dating apps, advertisement. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So I'm sure a lot of you are having that internal dialogue right now where it's easier said than done if we lived in a world of rainbows and butterflies to focus on mental health. But that's why it's important in pulling it into your schedule. This becomes just your life. It's not a project, right? Let's see. Okay, so part of that is changing our dialogue with it. How can all those things that were on that last slide, instead of feeling overwhelmed by them, because inevitably they're going to still exist, especially dog videos, hopefully, but how can you start making these things work for you and you don't work for them? I talked about this a little bit last week in terms of social media, especially. And when I say social media, that could be your emails that you're getting. It can be text messages. It can be, the standard Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It looks different for everybody, but it doesn't have to be the standard way of how we're intaking it. It's just the fact that we are. So again, how can you start changing your relationship with these things that are inevitably going to enter, whether you like it or not sometimes? So a big part of this, there was a strategy that was used in the past called dopamine fasting, which sounds really intense. And I don't want people to think that they have to go cold turkey by any means. Again, this is just part of life. We're going to be rolling through it. These things are inevitably going to come up. But the reason that people were doing a lot of this dopamine fasting is similar to like a diet. And I say that in a very light way. We're trying to take things out that we can then integrate back in for a few reasons. One, to reset your brain. Two, to make you now have an appreciation for those things that you didn't have for a hot second or maybe a long time. And then three, in addition to that gratitude, just deciding what you want to bring in, giving it an option of what you want to have. If you're getting emails that you realize, this is now just becoming noise in my life. It doesn't serve me anymore. Get rid of it, delete it, unsubscribe. Same thing with Instagram accounts or Facebook people, start to slowly wean these things out of your life. Again, it doesn't have to be cold turkey, but just acknowledging that, hey, maybe this doesn't serve me in the way that it used to. And a big thing of how we approach these things or intake them in our life come from things like this: our phones, our televisions, our computers, shopping, online shopping, sex, petting your dog, or having like a pet around, exercising. These are things we become addicted to, especially in here in America. We are so wildly addicted to porn and sugar. Those are the top two things, at least the last time I checked the stats. So, these are things, again, that You're like, well, I don't want to stop petting my dog. But again, we're just trying to reset your dopamine levels. We're just trying to get you back to a place like, let's say that you fast from this for maybe a few days, an hour it could be, baby steps. It doesn't have to be like you're going on a silent retreat for a year. Just think about these things in terms of portion, right? Because at the end of the day, everything in moderation, everything in moderation, including moderation. And it's so, so true. And I bring it up because we are approaching things, like I said, from a new place of gratitude and discipline as well. At the end of the day, so much of the messaging from last week and this week is that we're learning some self-discipline, and part of that comes from it. And on that note too, with that discipline, it becomes a conversation of, okay, how can I now take control? How can I be in the front seat here? And I shared this information from last week, so I won't go over it too much, but it's here so that you can have it to read in the document when you can download it. But a big part of this now, especially, is we're seeing that people are working from home. Our mental space is now meeting our workspace. It's now meeting our living space. So again, these are just some quick tips and tricks. I know it's a lot of reading, but again, it's so that you have it later. But routine, huge one. First and foremost, what is going to help you start and decide this is where my day begins? You have a lot of freedom with that. Some of us more now than others. So how do you get to decide what that looks like when you are starting your day? Setting rules with people in your space, that's a huge one too. And I've had a lot of questions about it in terms of, I'm working from home, my kids are bothering me, or my significant other maybe doesn't understand the boundaries I need. Start communicating it. It could be in a fun way too. It could be in a way that you have, I think of my nephew has a sign on his door that says like, no girls allowed sort of thing. You know what? Your space, your rules, man. And I respect that. Think of it in that way, especially maybe if you have kids running around, making it as if it's like your office is your fort. And if you don't have office space, creating something that feels like it can at least be that for you. Again, even though it's very easy to get into work mode, I am very guilty of this. Making sure that you're connecting with people, socializing where you can. I notice for myself, for example, that I get really irritable if I'm not socializing with people after a while. I'm one of those extroverted introverts, so I can put my head down easily and kind of work through. But then, I need that fulfillment of having the love and human connection in my life as well. And that can also be, it doesn't have to be in a community. If you're introverted, especially, I know that it can be hard to just reach out to online communities right now. But for me, I notice that when I'm listening to podcasts that involve socialization or talking, TED Talks as well, that also fulfills a part of my brain that I feel like I'm in a conversation, which is huge. Again, a big message of all of this, scheduling breaks, make it part of your schedule that you are taking time to then step aside, go for a walk, whatever that you need to kind of reset. Keeping a dedicated office space for myself, it's like I don't work from my bed. My bed is where I rest, and that's what I invest in there. So try and giving yourself some boundaries. Again, this ties back into discipline. How can you create a space for you that feels safe, whether you live in a 500 square foot studio apartment or you have a 500 bedroom mansion, like having your own set space of what makes you feel comfortable and where you really feel that you can focus. And then also at the same time where you can turn off. Sometimes it can be something as simple as turning off your notifications on your phone for the day, closing your computer, closing a door. It's a very physical connection that we have to these things. And then just like we started the day, ending it with a routine. And again, whatever that looks like for you. But and these are things that regardless of the current situation we're in, these are all practices that you can just start implementing in general. So, and I guess I should preface all of that by saying that this isn't a pandemic only guide. This is just for daily life. And that's what we want to make it. So as we are able to separate ourselves and acknowledge the potentially new hurdles that we already are trying to break this cycle with, we're forming these new habits, we're doing these new lifestyles, and we're learning like where they're stemming from in the first place. So technology, it's not going anywhere, right? It's only going to get louder and louder. How can you start to set boundaries there? Because again, I'm not telling you that you need to throw your phone in the ocean or become Amish. I could say that because I grew up in Pennsylvania. I know the Amish country very, very well. But how can you now just make technology, again, it's working for you, you're not working for it. These can be just little steps to it. Turning off notifications. There is a reason that the red dot is red. It's alerting you. It wants you to see something new and shiny. If you take that aspect of it away, you don't have that kind of Pavlov's dog reaction that I need to check it. The ding, I had that happen to me earlier today. A ding went off. I didn't know what it was coming from, but I knew it was an alert. And I immediately felt like my heart racing, like, wait, was it an email? Was it a client? Blah, blah, blah. We should start going into this kind of rabbit hole. Also in relation to our phones, maybe turning it on grayscale. There is a mode that you can do for that. Your phone does not look as cool when it's in grayscale. Let me tell you that much. Again, this ties into your space. So if that means charging your device in another room, that could also involve, some people then say, because we always have our excuses, some people might say, well, but my phone's my alarm, so I need it to charge next to my bed. Get an alarm clock and charge your phone in a completely different room. These are extremes, like again, it doesn't have to be that way, but I'm just giving you some options today. For people who really do use their phone as a way to feel connected to people, again, maybe in this particular time, also considering doing things like audio messages or a good old phone call instead of texting and just being in that world. I shared a stat earlier at the beginning of this talk and last week about we spend an average of 2 to 4 hours just texting, typing, and swiping on our phones already. And I can only imagine that number is going up. So how can you take away that element of it where now it's just human to human? We're humanizing it as much as possible. And at the end of the day, take what you need. Take a second to actually reflect and think about what you need in regards to the tech world, in regards to the work world, in regards to just your everyday life. This is something I like to think of when I'm doing that writing exercise, for example, is I also kind of include a note when I'm writing to myself of, okay, this is how I feel today. What do I need today? Additionally, this is, like I said, some more of the good stuff. These are just some of my favorite kind of go-to resources that are free or affordable. There's a lot of cursing. I apologize in advance. That's very on brand for me. And especially on the right, I have a ton of resources in terms of what people can introduce for other people in their life. Last week, we had quite a few questions come in terms of how can I talk to other people about this in my life that I may notice are struggling, or I may notice don't want to open up about this. The right column is probably going to be one of their best friends. There's a lot of different resources there. Okay. These are just some feel-good things I provide for you guys as well that you are more than welcome to take and run with and include in your office space. And yeah, now we're going to break for questions. I think I need to, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to see the little chat box that time, but let me go back in here really quick and we can kind of, go through some questions really quick. So, and now I can finally read your chat. Again, I apologize. I don't know why that did full screen for me. Let's see. Yes, stop that multitasking. I love that, Olivia, that you were charging your phone in a separate place. And Catherine, do it. Get it. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions that they would like answered? Okay, in lines with alarm, does anyone have an alarm clock they like or recommend? Oof, I don't know. I have one of my old cell phones that's laying around, so I specifically just use that for an alarm. I don't use the phone in any other way. I just use it as that way, or I've also set an alarm on my laptop. That's just an extra way that it forces me to get out of bed to go and get out of bed, number one, and then turn off the alarm, and it lives somewhere else too. So those are my suggestions, but if anybody else has any, please share them. And I am actually going to check my phone really quick because I posted it on my Instagram. If people had questions, they could send them to me. So I'm going to see. Okay, cool. It looks like we got a few. one person asked me about, okay, the time spent on social media. And I had this question last week actually too. And really it comes down to your own personal preference with it. As cheesy as that may sound, you know yourself best when you feel drained from any of these things, media related. It's so, so important to be able to recognize that. And that's what we're kind of introducing in all of this, is the recognition, the mindfulness of it first and foremost. So in terms of like an actual amount of time, that's where that writing exercise is actually really great too. Because if you realize, whoa, I'm spending like 12 hours on social media, probably not the healthiest for you. Let's see, I had one more question come in. Oh, somebody asked in regards to sleep and power naps. Do you or do you not take power naps? And actually the sleep specialist that I have had speak at some of my in-person events, he is a great resource for this, which I'm happy to connect anybody to him because he's the guru in it. However, we did get asked this question before, and there isn't necessarily a right or wrong with it. It really is like if you notice your body needs it, especially for me when I was depressed, I was tired all the time. And that's actually how I knew that I was in kind of a bad place with it, because I was sleeping way more than I usually did. And that's where tracking stuff also helps. And in regards to, we did talk though about power naps and how those can be actually super beneficial if you really feel like you need it. Olivia also just asked how much coffee is too much coffee. There definitely is a wide range of it. And we talked a little bit about this last week in terms of relation to things like coffee, caffeine, and burnout. So something I learned a lot about, especially in my time in LA, where it is very go, 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 and I was super reliant on coffee, is that it can turn into something which is called adrenal fatigue. And that's where you're actually having more internal issues, but you're masking it because of coffee. And it comes from this lack of sleep, this lack of care for yourself. Burnout can also turn into depression. So in terms of your coffee intake, I would say I'm not sure the exact answer of how much is too much, but there are some great alternatives. I have a buddy, for example, who has a company called Mellow Rooster, and it's actually linked on my website. He's one of the partners for my mental health talks. And he created this product exactly for that, to start helping promote healthy sleep. And for the people who still really do need the coffee or they need the caffeine from it, it has it, but it's in a way more natural way. You could look at that too in terms of tea. This kind of ties back into the dopamine effect of everything as well. For me, I don't love the taste of coffee, but I love the routine of it, I've noticed. So I've tried to restart my mornings. Yes, awesome. Get that link. I tried to start my mornings instead with, when I can anyway, doing lemon water as an alternative. So there are a ton of things like that that are also just still going to give you the boost of energy you need. So maybe just a little, like I said, everything in moderation, right? Intention journaling. Yeah, awesome. There's so many different forms of writing exercises, you guys. If you didn't like the writing ones I gave today, I highly encourage you to just type in literally writing and breathing exercises. There are so many different ones to work for you. Oh, and I had one more question I saw come through to Instagram. So let me just pull that up. Okay. Answered that one. Anybody else get a bunch of spam when they post Instagram stories with questions now? Is that just me? Because it has been quite annoying. Oh, okay. At-home remedy for stress, which I don't really know the specifics of what they mean there, but I can do my best. So in terms of, let's say it's from a physical aspect that you're feeling really, really stressed. I know something that's worked for me, and it's why I include it in kind of the little checklist, is exercise. It's a very internal thing where I feel stressed that I realize I need to get out. So whether that's a quick walk around the block, sometimes I feel like Forrest Gump, where I'm like, I just gotta run forever. If you don't have options like that, that's where the breathing exercises and stuff come in. And it's why it's so highly encouraged by so many people, is because you can just do it from wherever, whenever. So that's always something that I recommend in terms of how to handle stress when you're at home. That breathing exercise I showed in the beginning, it's something I'll do before a phone call. If I know like I'm heading into like a heavy phone call or something with a client or a really intense meeting, I'll do something like that just to kind of recenter myself. Additionally, for me at least, fidget spinners. I have just like a little thing of Play-Doh I play with at my desk if I realize I'm feeling anxious. And then it also gives me a signal of realizing, hey, I've been feeling really weird, but I'm also playing with this Play-Doh like so much now. So just being able to kind of track my own behaviors has been super helpful. So another writing thing that we actually talked about last week, I believe, was just in acknowledging your emotions, how can you start to acknowledge those stressors too? And then, like what we went through today, how can you reconfigure it pretty much to instead cause less stress and serve more of a purpose? How do you commit to taking breaks during the day? I've tried scheduling it on the calendar and then I skip it. You need to stop skipping it, Olivia. It is hard. I get it. Like there are days I just get in a workflow, and if I notice I'm either approaching or is that time that I have scheduled for my break and I am just in a zone with it, or I'm not feeling it, it just doesn't feel right for that time of that day, that's okay too. I am a huge believer in listening just to yourself, your gut, whatever you're feeling in that moment, because again, we are humans and we are changing every damn second. So if you're really struggling with keeping it in your schedule, if you can't do it for, I don't know, I'm just going to assume you give yourself 5 minutes. If you can't do that 5 minutes in that scheduled time, still do it. Just do it later in the day, or maybe start your morning off with it. Try it that way. Now make it, instead of a break, view it as a routine that you're pulling in instead. Hopefully that helps, because I know it's definitely hard. But then once you're in the flow of it, you feel weird not taking the break. So practice, practice, practice. Any other questions? I think that was all I had. My contact info will be available in the slides that you'll be getting as well from all of this. And, you know, my Instagram is just at Remickz. So it's Remickz. And you can always hit me up on there. I like talking to people on DMs there and everything as well. Yes, take that routine concept, Lily. I really hope that helps. It's funny how changing the verbiage of things too for ourselves, where something no longer is a habit, it's not maybe a hobby, it's my routine, it's my life, and that feels a little bit better. So hopefully that helps you. And I think that Rachel was going to pop in, and she had a few other notes for Ad Club. There she is. There we go.
Thank you so much, Becky, for sharing all of these great tips to stay healthy as we navigate life and move forward. I do want to let you guys know that this platform is a great conversation starting platform. So you're welcome to hang out after Becky and I both sign off as presenters and chat with people at your table, and connect your LinkedIn so you can connect with people that were also in this chat today. And then if you really like the content and you're feeling a bit generous, we have a donation button that's located at the top left of the Remo layout. And all of that donation will be going to Remickz Marketing to support Remickz Marketing and all of the great content that Becky will be producing in the future. One more announcement for Ad Club. We are hosting a Kegs with Legs tomorrow. I'll put a link in the general chat, but it's also going to be in this platform, Remo.
Super fun. Kegs with Legs is awesome.
Yeah, so drinking, talking, and meeting new people all from the comforts of your home. Who couldn't love that? So thank you guys so much for being a part of this series. Thank you so much, Becky, for creating this incredible content. And I encourage everybody to hang out and meet who is also in the Remo platform.
Yeah, and I put a link to my website because when we're talking about like the donation based stuff, especially, my goal is to keep all my mental health stuff as free as possible. So that's what you guys are kind of helping fund in this. I have like a text line that's going if you need like a daily pick me up sort of thing, but all of it is linked on my website so you can check it out there. But thank you all so much for joining, and thank you Ad2 for hosting this awesome event.